Hello there, welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally. If you want a guide to what's going on in the music industry and how it all works, then here we are. We'll be looking at the finances of the music industry whilst also bringing you some of the most eye-catching stories and comments from the pop biz in the past week. He's Stuart Dredge, I'm Joe Sparrow. Stu, let's start with a big fact.
Okay, I got a small number today compared to previous months. 270.
Now, go on, that is a small number.
It is. So that is how many unofficial anthems called World Cup 2026 have been uploaded to Deezer, which is not that interesting, but the fact that 70% of them are AI slop is the interesting thing.
Right. So now, the World Cup has started. We are all football crazy, of course, right now. And I'm sure...
We're all Cape Verde fans right now.
A huge Cape Verde fan. Big shout to all the Cape Verdeans who are listening to the podcast. I know there's a pool of about 500,000 of you, or I think 350,000 of you to choose from. But I'm sure, Stu, like me, you stayed up last night to watch Iran-New Zealand, which was actually a great game. So we have got football fever here, folks. But of course, one of the big things about football is that there are people like releasing country-specific songs, and now that's easier than ever. Are these AI-generated ones any good?
Well, that's the thing. Because, I mean, in the old days, what would happen was the squad would be filled up with booze, herded into a studio to shout, and then go on top of the pops to sway out of time with each other.
Yes.
But nowadays, this idea of unofficial, and obviously the thing about these AI services, anyone can go on there, put their own lyrics in, or get the AI to do it for them and release their own official song. And most of them aren't very good. And Deezer with this release, I think Deezer's basically looking for some headlines here, full credit to their PR department for knowing what a good topic is. Because there's the World Cup, there's also FIFA World Cup 2026 songs, more than 150 of those, which I think is quite fun. If you're making an unofficial rip-off World Cup song, still make sure you get the branding in there.
So I was about to say, because of course, famously this year, and we'll talk about this perhaps in the lock-in later for those of you who are Patreon super fans, but there is a full FIFA official album that is out for the World Cup as well, isn't there? Of songs featuring... I've just got the notes here. Rolling Stones, Shaggy, Major Lazer, Lisa, Anita, David Guetta. It's really a who's who of big name global stars, right?
Yeah. But what you want is some person sitting in their bedroom saying to Suno, "Write me a football song."
Yeah,
and then popping Deezer. But the thing, so Deezer's point of announcement was saying, "But we're not recommending these to anyone, and we're not putting them in playlists. They're just there." But this is the new, it's like the World Cup of AI slot music, in a sense, in that people are going, yeah, I know. And it's happening apparently in Brazil, in France, so all these different versions of, like I think in France it was Coupe du Monde, that's the title they're using. So everyone is not only pumping out AI slop songs, they're giving them all the same titles. They're not even giving it an interesting title.
Talking about AI for the 10 billionth time, it sort of feels exhausting, but at the same time, this is actually a really interesting situation, isn't it? Because people kind of like football-related songs at this time of year. I've been listening to World Emotion by New Order for the last month, hyping myself up. But this also sort of points to one of the use cases of AI in music, which is sort of localization. I'm not saying this is good or a good example of it, but there can now be hundreds of different songs about football for every single team in the world. Not that anyone wants that, but that's kind of the premise of AI music, isn't it?
But also, you could do, for example, if you're a Cape Verdean, you could do an AI song about last night's match.
Right.
You could issue your review of the match as a song with lyrics. So this whole rapid response is quite interesting. So if something interesting happens in the World Cup, say, I'm trying to get past, like, do you remember that year when Zidane headbutted the guy and got sent off?
Yes.
Like, there could be 60 AI songs about that online within the next hour after it happens this year. So that might be quite interesting, that idea of that kind of stuff.
That is a unique use case, isn't it, for AI, in that you can create songs. We would talk about this a lot, the pace of being able to create stuff so quickly. But doing things in response to things, that's something that human beings would struggle to do. It would be a struggle for the Cape Verdean artists to create, record, and distribute a song within hours of the event happening. And yet, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but as we think to the future about how music is consumed and what music is it's expanding beyond this thing of pop music, of artists recording songs and us enjoying those songs because they're good songs. It's now music as a sort of like a unit of something to consume, to hold your attention for a little bit because it's related to something that's just happened. It's a different nugget of, it pains me to say this, but of media to communicate something, isn't it?
Well, it's all just dogging everything up. The other good football stat I've got this morning, Ronaldinho, the Brazilian legend, he's got his own label now,
right?
Called Musica. It released 2 albums before the World Cup, and he's like playing A&R guy. Okay,
yeah.
And do you know how well he's taken to being an A&R guy?
I'm fast. I'm gone. Yeah, go on.
Guess how many of the 59 tracks on these 2 albums he is also a credited artist on?
I'm gonna guess 59.
Absolutely right, 59. So he's already learned how the music industry works in terms of A&R.
Hats off to Ronaldinho. Congratulations. Okay, well, yeah, true football fever here on the podcast today, folks. If you are a Patreon superfan, stay tuned for the lock-in, where not only will we be going through some of the best / most questionable official songs of the year, but Stu has also created his own fantastic football song for us to listen to.
Yeah, one of the words in that sentence is going to be debated, I think.
Okay, let's move on to the next big story. YouTube, talking of AI, reckons that its own terms of service that already exist allow it to use independent musicians' uploads to train AI models. 1, is that true? 2, how do people feel about that?
Yes, well, not good. So this broke last week. It's an ongoing lawsuit against Google that was filed last year from a group of independent musicians. And they basically said it has its Lyria 3 AI music model, which is its big AI model. And they claimed that it had been trained on their songs without permission. And so Billboard had this report the other day, and it's a filing from Google. So this is not speculation. This is actually Google, its attorneys saying that. And when it said, okay, no, they can't prove that. No one's proven that. That's their first point. But even if they could prove it, which I think is always an interesting legal formulation, it said basically, YouTube's terms and conditions give it, and I'll quote, a worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, sub-licensable and transferable license to use that content, brackets, including to reproduce, distribute, prepare derivative works, display and perform it, close brackets, in connection with the service and YouTube's, brackets, and its successors and affiliates, business. So essentially, if you upload something to YouTube, be that a music video, be it a vlog, whatever, it's terms to say, yes, we can use it for anything we want to in our business, which the assumption would be perhaps they're also using it to train their own AI music models.
This is interesting because there have been a few filings made in this case, and it feels like YouTube, they're revealing a little bit more each time. I think the previous one was them saying, oh, well, I mean, of course, this music is being used on our platform for training. And now they're being a bit more specific. And, it feels like we're getting closer to some point where we're maybe answering the question that a lot of people have had, which is, can you AI platforms just be clear and tell us which songs you have used to train your models, right? And there was a bit of reporting today, you reported on actually just before the podcast recording started. I think The Atlantic, was it, magazine in the US, has sort of, it's been able to find the list of songs that it's strongly suspected that AI models have been trained on. We don't know for sure what they picked from that list of 12 million songs, but it's probably all of them.
Well, and I think it's so in this case, Google has made a few announcements about Lyria 3, which is its version of Suno. And it had this phrase it said where it said it only trained it on music that it had the rights to use, quotes, under their terms of service, partner agreements, and applicable law. So this new filing sheds, well, under their terms of service, that may mean every track uploaded to YouTube by independent musicians. And that's the key point here. This is about independent musicians doing it themselves. It doesn't mean that all the songs put on there by Universal Music and Sony and Warner and big indies labels. This is only about independent music and independent people uploading their stuff. So I guess there's 2 questions here. One is, did Google have the rights to do this? It argues that it does.
And that's what's being hammered out in this legal case at the moment. Yeah.
But then beyond that, beyond the legal question, there's the kind of the moral optics ethical question, which is that if you want to be seen as a friend to the music industry, is this really how you want to go about things?
Yeah. Is slurping up all independent musicians' work and turning that into AI music the way to go about it?
And it's interesting because there is a box you can tick in YouTube and uploading stuff, and you can say you can opt out of having. So there's been a few stories about other companies scraping YouTube to train their AIs.
Yeah.
And YouTube now has a box you can tick saying, I don't want that to happen. I don't allow that. You can opt out of having your YouTube videos used to train other companies' AIs, but you can't opt out of YouTube and Google and its family doing that. So there's an interesting thing there where it's saying, we do believe you have the right to opt out of some AI training, just not ours. That's the risk for them. The perception is like, hang on a minute, is it one rule for you and one rule for other companies? Because I want to opt out of all of it.
As ever, I guess, well, we're going to find out what's going to happen with this, but as ever, I guess if you are not paying for something and you're using that service, you and your data are the payment for that service. So if you want to get your music on a platform that is essentially the world's biggest streaming platform and all the benefits that entails, at the moment, the way it stands is you also, and you're independent, you have to agree to your music being used to train an AI model, which I think a lot of people would feel very conflicted about, because on one hand they want their music to be seen everywhere and heard everywhere, but a lot of them probably don't want that.
Yes. And I think as well it raises questions. So I mean, in YouTube's credit, it's been doing stuff with major labels, it's signed deals, it was praised by Warner Music Group's boss for the way it's approaching it. So obviously he used to work at YouTube, so he knows it quite well.
Right.
But there's questions.
So the man that used to work at YouTube is praising YouTube. Is that,
but now he's on the other side, and he wouldn't praise them. But the thing is, if you're, say, your Universal Music Group, which has an incubator with YouTube to do AI stuff, you could say to them, hang on a minute, is YouTube a good actor, even if they're doing it to all the independent musicians who you don't have signed? And I think it's a question for those labels about, what do you want in a partner? Don't you want them to also respect the rights of the unsigned musicians?
All right, next story. Tupac Shakur has been dead for 30 years. Or has he, Stu? To be concluded. But if you think that will stop him returning to his acting career for a new video game, you'd be completely wrong. What on earth is happening here, Stu?
You would indeed, yeah. He was a good actor, wasn't he, as well?
He was, yeah.
Not chance to show it, but yeah. So this is a game called Stranger in Heaven, which I hadn't heard of before, but it's an action-adventure epic set in Japan, coming later date. But they had this big character reveal this month. Because basically the characters in the game are being played by real people. One of whom is Snoop Dogg, obviously, because if there's anything new happening with tech and music, Snoop Dogg is there.
Yes.
But another is Tupac. He's not appearing in this game as himself. He is playing a character in the game, and so this trailer for the game has this real, and then right at the end, just out of the shadows steps Tupac, and it's like a big and this is all above board and kosher. So the developer said it's with the permission and the supervision of Tupac's estate, so they're involved, and it said it's treating this integration with the utmost respect for his legacy, and it's not an AI thing. They're using like old footage and photos to kind of create the character, so that it's not that they've recreated him using AI or done anything like that. And he's going to be one of the actors in this game playing a character that's not Tupac.
We've seen Tupac before.
We have.
Post-death. We saw him on stage. Was it a Coachella about 12 years ago or 10 years ago?
Yeah. Dr. Dre did a headline set and Tupac with a hologram. 2012.
2012. And when we say, by the way, hologram, I don't want to be all pernickety about this, but it was a projection. It was a projection of a 3D model of him onto a piece of very polished glass, wasn't it, on stage?
Okay. I mean, is that not a hologram? I need to.
I picture holograms as being,
R2D2
having actual 3D volume in space, but made of light or something like that. So I don't want to be too picky. But I mean, okay, so we've seen Tupac a few times since his death. We've also had more music released by Tupac since his death than when he was alive. Do you think this is how it's going to be now? We've got ABBA performing for years and years in London. We've got signs that artists are going to be hanging around forever. Is this what the future is going to be like?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of thoughts about this because part of me thinks, is this not going to, in this game, which is set in Japan over the course of 50 years or something,
Yeah.
is it not going to, whoever the character is and what they're doing, is it not going to distract you from that by the fact that that's Tupac? Does that take away your suspension of disbelief in who the actual character he's playing is and what the story is? Because you're so busy going, hey, is that dead? So that's one thing. Two, obviously, there might be some very good actors out there who could have done a job in this game who aren't dead and who are trying to make it a career. So there is a sense of like, if you're a young actor nowadays, are you competing against the history of acting and music now? Like you're not just competing against actors of your age, you're competing against the recreation of Tupac.
Yeah.
But from a music point of view, from a rights point of view, this is why people are talking about likeness rights, for example. As an artist, if you have your likeness rights, as an artist estate, if you have their artist rights, there's all this stuff you can do. You can do ABBA-style gigs. You can appear in games. You can create sort of stuff for social media promotions. So this is a reminder that there's all kinds of stuff that can happen with your likeness as a musician. Even if you're not around anymore, as long as someone is overseeing that for you and someone is managing that for you, there are going to be these opportunities.
I mean, I'm sure that this game's going to be very good, and he's going to be, his legacy is going to be treated very thoughtfully, and it's going to be blah blah blah. But this idea, my final thought here is that this idea of sort of taking artists and extending their careers and their reach in these ways. We've seen this happen. We've seen this happen already with music in terms of, we can't escape Fleetwood Mac now. There was a period where you didn't need to listen to Fleetwood Mac because there were new artists filling the Fleetwood Mac space, right? And now Fleetwood Mac are back, and it feels like they're back for good, and they're going to be just using the infrastructure that's there. If you want to listen to sort of Fleetwood Mac style music, you're going to be fed Fleetwood Mac, and it feels like there's a possibility. Again, with this thing here, you said about an emerging actor could have filled this role, or an emerging hip hop artist, or whatever, and it's sort of edging out new entrants because of recognizable IP. It feels like it could have a sort of nullifying effect on interesting things happening. We will find out. Talking of interesting things happening, Stu, say you, say me, but just don't say it in my voice without permission. Why has Lionel Richie been filing trademarks for some of his most famous phrases?
Because he is a smart man.
Yes,
or has smart attorneys. So yeah, he's filed 4 trademarks. So it's 4 trademarks of him saying, "Hello, is it me you're looking for?"
We're going to get sued for each one of these you read out, right?
Ideally while sculpting someone's face.
Yeah.
Say you, say me.
Yeah.
Easy like Sunday morning, and all night long. So probably the 4, dancing on the ceiling possibly aside, the 4 most recognizable lines from Lionel Richie songs. Would you say?
I think so. As a huge Lionel Richie connoisseur, yes.
And so this is basically an attempt to use trademark law to protect his voice. It's something that Taylor Swift did earlier in the year. She registered in trademarks or filed for trademarks. Actor Matthew McConaughey has done it, and TV host Jimmy Kimmel has done it. They are the 4 horsemen of the oncoming trademark filings apocalypse. And what this is about, so copyright protects your songs, your lyrics, and your recordings. But this is an attempt to use trademark law to protect your voice from AI cloning, only if these filings are accepted.
What we would think of here is, okay, someone clones the voice of an artist, and then they would take Taylor Swift's cloned voice and then create some lyrics and put it on top of another song. She doesn't like that. She wants to stop that. Right? That feels understandable. But am I getting this right, saying that they kind of can't protect that, but they can protect the phrasing of their, their voice?
This is an attempt to try and find a way to protect your voice, because you're right, your voice isn't protected by copyright. Taylor Swift singing a certain song is protected by copyright.
Yeah.
The lyrics in that song are, but her voice being cloned to say something she didn't write.
Her recognizable voice is a bit of a grey area, because you can talk about like likeness rights and image rights, which we think of as visual, but I guess your voice could be a part of that.
Yeah, and there are moves in America particularly to bring in legislation to protect voice rights. But in the meantime, This is some artists saying, hang on a minute, well, maybe we can use trademark law because my voice is my trademark.
Right.
Now, the thing here is, I read a legal analysis by some Gerben Law, they're called. They understand this. They were saying that you don't just get these filings accepted. You have to prove that what you're filing is a trademark. It's not just lyrics. So you may have to find some way of making these phrases said in your voice a commercial product. So because the whole thing about trademark law is you have to show you're protecting it and you have to show you're using it for something.
Yeah.
But it is, I think so it'd be interesting, if you're Lionel Richie, you may have to find some way of launching a product that involves you saying those words but basically these phrases, it's not the phrases that are being protected because those are lyrics and that's copyright. This is the voice saying
it.
And I think it is a growing awareness from musicians about the value of their voices and the risks if they're cloned. Just this morning we were writing about Boy George. He's releasing a new version of Karma Chameleon, and he's worked with an AI company to do some stuff on him. He's sung a new performance of it, and then they're working that into the original song. So he has a brand new version of the song using his vocals that he has ownership of rather than the label.
And is that to sort of, I guess as he's aged, his voice might sound a bit different now. So is it to sort of make his new words sound a bit like the Boy George from 1983?
So it's kind of so that's an example of a positive thing. But again, it's about Boy George saying my voice has value.
Yeah, right.
I want to exploit that value, not some random who's cloning it.
Which is actually quite fascinating. I was going to say, because it's fascinating to think that one of the things that we enjoy most about music is the identifiable voice of a singer, right? That is the thing that is one of the big things that takes us back again and again and again. But that, it turns out, isn't actually copyrighted and protected. It's everything else around it is, and now that can be duplicated beyond that one person, we're sort of in a
and it's a patchwork of things. So, for example, if someone cloned Taylor Swift's voice or Lionel Richie's voice, and then put out an endorsement of the president or a politician, or a product, then there are ways you can go after that and say this is misrepresentation. I'm not endorsing this product. So there's a little patchwork of things you could take action on, but this is just another layer to that of saying right. I'm good.
Okay. Any other business then? This is a bit of a feel-good story and something quite exciting, I think. UK indie streaming service Cantilever, I'm going to be honest, I'm still on the fence about this. The name of this product. Cantilever has raised £250,000 from a group of independent record labels, and it's a sort of bespoke-ish streaming platform, and it's trying to carve a space out by making itself quite different to stuff like Spotify. Tell us about Cantilever, Stu.
It's my favourite streaming service named after a kind of bridge. It's shot straight to the top of that chart.
Yeah.
This came out last year, so it was in the UK only, and it's all about curation. So it's a streaming service as a mobile app. It has 10 albums a month. That's all it has to listen to, 10 albums. And those rotate out every month. They're all from independent labels and artists. And they come with interviews and long-form journalism as well. The idea being you spend a month listening to these 10 albums and reading about them and listening to the artists. And you pay $4.99 for it. And it's sort of an extra. It sits outside the big streaming services as a way to discover stuff and actually engage with it deeply. And now a bunch of those labels, so it's people like Domino and Ninja Tune and Partisan and Sub Pop and so well-respected independent labels have chipped in £250,000 in the company, so I really say it's really hard to build a business from independent streaming. Like we recently reported on Nina, one bit about, and it closed down because it couldn't make it work. So my reading of this is these labels saying, we think there's something good here. It needs some runway. It needs some money to develop and grow and do marketing and all the things you need to do to actually find people to come and join you. And so my reading of it is they're stepping in saying, we think there's something in this and we want to give it a chance.
Yeah.
So here is some seed funding. It's not, millions and millions, but it will give it that chance to see what it can do.
Yeah, I mean, with £250,000, you could really do some marketing to get a good user base on board. I think there's definitely something here, isn't it? Because first of all, there's precedent in that if you think about video streaming, you have the giants like Netflix, and they're not, of course, this is different to music streaming. They don't have everything, but they have loads. And if you are overwhelmed by choice there, and you are a bit of a connoisseur, you can subscribe to Mubi, which has a similar approach, doesn't it? It has 20 odd movies a month. There's information around it, and then they switch them out, and there's a community around it, and it's for sort of that connoisseur level. So this is 10 albums a month, and I guess there's a mix of emerging independent artists and some sort of classic heavyweight hitters in there as well.
I think the focus is more towards the new end of things.
Yeah. And they're doing this thing, which I think people are crying out for, particularly people who are music nerds, which is context, extra content that explores these albums to help you get into them. And the pricing is great, right? It's like the third of a price of a Spotify subscription.
Well, I think that's it. And it's priced so that it's not an either or. It's like it's an add-on. And I think this is, so do you remember the heyday? Do you remember the heyday of crypto, blockchain, NFT?
Oh, yes.
And a bunch of brand new streaming services popped up. And a lot of them were like, we are going to kill Spotify. We are the Spotify killer.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous because Spotify spends hundreds of millions of euros every year on marketing and on development. Whereas Cantilever came out and said, we're not going to give you any rubbish about killing Spotify. We are an alternative for people who care about this music and to go deeper. So it's basically it's carving out, it's trying to carve out a niche for itself, and it may or may not work. I mean, it's a difficult business. The margins are super tight, but this is I think those labels saying we recognise it's worth giving this a shot because we think there is something there.
Absolutely, and the exciting thing for me about Cantilever is it feels like they have got a reasonable shot because they're outside of the Spotify, streams for fractions of pennies system. They're working directly with these indie labels so that the margins are a bit different there. So perhaps there's more wiggle room. These labels are all invested so that they can maybe even be a bit flexible there and to get the project going. And this is aimed at the music nerds who want more. They're perhaps willing to pay a little bit more a month to have this curated thing. It sounds fun and interesting. And I don't know. I think this is a really great idea. And we talked for many, many years about differentiation between streaming platforms and how little there is. Just adding in podcasts or books isn't really enough. This is a whole different way of looking at it. I'm well done, Cantilever. I am impressed.
Yeah.
Okay. From UK based independent streaming platforms to one of the biggest pop stars in the universe, Ariana Grande is one of the good eggs, it says here, Stu, of the pop world. And this week has offered more evidence, a charitable foundation and a beef with the White House. She's ticking a lot of good boxes here. Tell us about this.
She is. There's something in the air, for big pop stars with their social.
Hang on, I'll sue you for that. I've got the catalogue for Phil Collins.
I didn't say tonight.
No, okay.
But yeah, so Ariana, she set up the Brighter Days Ahead Foundation, which is going to have 4 funds focusing on, I think, it's LGBTQ plus rights, mental health care, reproductive rights, crisis support, and a bunch of different charities that are supported from those 4 funds. And this is new. Olivia Rodrigo's got her Fund for Good. Sabrina Carpenter's got her Sabrina Carpenter Fund. Chapel Rowan has got the Midwest Princess Project. But then even going up and back a level, Beyonce's got a Be Good Foundation. Lady Gaga's got Born This Way. Rihanna's got her Clara Lionel Foundation. Like, there is something about the biggest of pop stars, the biggest stars, who maybe in a previous era would have tried to keep out of political divisive issues, would have tried to, are going, no, you know what? I'm going to funnel money into this. I'm going to encourage my fans to donate. I'm going to stand up for these causes I believe in. All of which is happening against this really divisive political backdrop in the US, which is where we come to the beef. Because again, Ariana Grande, she is the model of the kind of star who you would think would not want to be in conflict with the White House or would not want to piss off nearly half of the country who are strongly. But this week, the White House basically used one of her songs in one of its trolling social posts.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And she came out and said, basically, don't associate me with this. And she quoted, barbaric, inhumane, heinous nonsense. Which is, I mean, honestly, like wonderful rhetoric.
Lovely stuff. And also, you were mentioning there all those different foundations. I was reading, because she was at one of the many opening ceremonies going back to World Cup music. Shakira has been, I didn't realize, but she's had a foundation that's been building schools for underprivileged communities for about 20 years.
Yeah.
She's been doing this for a long time. And this is really fascinating, isn't it? Because we sort of, when we think about artists using their position to do something good or to do anything that they want to raise attention to, we do just think about them perhaps using their leverage, their voice, their reach, their sort of visibility. But this is, and notably, they're all women that you listed, putting their money where their mouth is and building something that makes massive change. This is great, isn't it?
And then some of this is controversial, not for me and you. And I know we'd make assumptions about people listening, people listening who are on the other side of things. But if you're raising money for reproductive rights and LGBTQ plus rights in the US right now, these are controversial things, and these could get you. These could lead you into the line of criticism from people and powerful people. So it's not just I'm doing my bit for charity in the 80s style.
Yeah,
this is actually taking a stance and saying these things are important. And I think, was it Olivia Rodrigo she had stands from Planned Parenthood, her shows. Yeah. All these things are. It's not performative charitable endeavors.
No,
it's something that's quite kind of it's sticking your neck out. And like you said, these are all women pop stars. Maybe some of the male pop stars have got some catching up to do and some inspiration to take.
And what I will say as well is, I think the sign of their effectiveness is that the hard right regime in the US at the moment, which is exists to be the ultimate troll. It is about owning the libs and slamming a dead cat on the table. When Olivia Rodrigo does things like that, which is directly in opposition to a lot of their agenda, it might get a little bit of pushback, but it doesn't get a lot of pushback, because I think that they know that if they push back too hard against what she and women like her are doing, it acknowledges that they're on the side of a lot of people. And so then the fact that they don't push back so hard is them saying, well, we'll needle you a bit, but then we're going to move away just in case your version of the truth starts to stick and we seem behind the times and old-fashioned.
And also, every time the White House does a social post using someone's music, and that artist protests, and it gets it more publicity, giving them what they wanted. But if you are now Ariana Grande or Olivia Rodrigo, you're like, well, I've just raised $1 million for kind of reproduction rights. That's the best riposte you can have. You don't need to worry about whether you're kind of, well, I understand why you protest about them using your songs, but equally, one of the best responses is to say, right, well, I'm going to funnel money towards these causes that are working against everything you're trying to do.
Yeah, thanks for helping. Yeah, exactly. And finally, talking of charitable actions, the Happy Mondays want to sell you a giant pill. But wait, that's not what it seems, kind of. This is the latest very literal meaning of physical music and merchandise. Stu, I'm sensing something to do with thrills and pills and bellyaches here.
It is pills and thrills and bellyaches. Even.
Thank you. Yes.
So this is a set that the Happy Mondays want to sell you a giant pill. It's something you might have heard in the Hacienda in its glory days. Go over to the back of the room there. Pills and thrills and bellyaches. For anyone who's not came out in 1990. It's like a landmark album in that UK's baggy kind of scene, crossover.
It holds up. It's a fantastic.
It's a banger, and it's being reissued as these things always are. Yeah. And the pill edition is a great big colourful pill. Although I will say, this shape-wise, this is very much ibuprofen capsule rather than ecstasy tablet.
Right.
I think someone there has said, let's not go the whole hog here. We can make it a legal kind of pill shape, not a naughty pill shape.
Yeah, right. What does it do? So like we think of an album, right, classically as some sort of flat disc, right? It's a CD or a vinyl record. But we're moving into an era now where albums might not be that at all. But this is an album. What is it? What does it look like?
It's a giant colourful pill. So it comes in 4 different kind of colours, and each one is 2 colours. And inside you get what do you get? I mean, on the actual the page, the store page, it goes into great depth about how they've made this. There's an MDA purity test. There's a credit card. That fake credit card.
So there's there is drugs paraphernalia in here. That's what you're saying. There's an MDMA purity test and a credit card that could be used, I imagine, for some sort of illicit activity.
I am on the listing here. There's a whistle as part of the package.
Yes, for the whistle posse in the club. I understand that. Yeah.
I'll quote you. Whistle is easy to blow, high-pitched, 117 dBA and loud. Yeah. Favoured by users where metal might stick to the skin and to minimize tooth abrasion when chewed upon.
Oh, right. Sorry. So people who are gurning really hard and wanting to blow a whistle. Okay.
And then obviously you then get the reissue version of the album. So there's like 4 discs. So there's like the remastered album. There's some extras. There's a bootleg of a live gig, and there are some remixes. And it costs to you, sir, £199.99.
Me.
Only 200 are being released. It comes out in August.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to pretend I'm not tempted by that, but 200 quid is a lot.
What's 200 times 200?
40,000.
40,000. So that's 40,000 quid of gross sales. I'd be interested. I'd be interested to know how much it costs to make all this stuff.
I was about to say,
is it a factory record style? It costs 250 quid to make, so they lose it. But no, But if you're a Happy Mondays fan, like it is, they really have pushed the boat out to make something that fits the original record, fans will like, and they only have to sell 200 of them.
Exactly, and
so
I guess
it's good. It's good work on the merch front, I think.
I guess even if they break even on the sales, they're going to get a huge amount of value from people boasting about it on social media and advertising the album. So well done, Happy Mondays. I would absolutely want one of those on my shelf. Thanks, Stu. We will, for those of you who are Patreon super fans, we will be talking more about literal packaging as well as more about football songs in the lock-in section, which is starting in just a couple of minutes. That's it from us on the main podcast this week. Thanks for joining us. If you're enjoying the show, please do spread the word, hit like and subscribe and all those kind of things, and give us some nice reviews if you're enjoying it. It really does help us. You can support us as well via Patreon. Sign up to become a super fan, which gives you access to our weekly lock-in. You get to hang around after hours, after the bell rings with me and Stu for an extra 20 minutes of bonus blah blah every week. And you can become part of that at patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Links are below the podcast. We'd also love you to get in touch with us. Please do email us about anything that you like, anything we discussed today, the goings on at the World Cup, and also any questions you have that you'd like us to look into for you about how the music industry works. We do love doing that research for you. You can drop us a line at the Price of Music Podcast at gmail.com. That's the Price of Music Podcast at gmail.com. That's it from me, Joe Sparrow, and that's it from him, Stuart Dredge. See you soon.